What's up, peers, and welcome to the World Crypto Network, here for the next show of open source everything. Oh, yes. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It's going to be a nice show. I'm not alone, thank God. I'm joined here today by the one and only. Let me mute myself here. I'm joined by the one and only Matt Odell from the Tales of the Crypt podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
How's it going, guys? Happy to be here.
Absolutely nice to have you here. And Pierce, you have to check out the Tales from the Crypt podcast. It's here. It started with Marty Bent and just, hanging out with a couple regular or different guests all the time who are interested in Bitcoin. And for example, here, Chris Denon or then the Bitcoin Tina and all other different freaks here coming there. And then not quite recently, but Matt himself, he joined the Rabbit Hole Recap, which is a phenomenal once-a-week show that summarizes, everything that happened during the Rabbit Hole. So I love these shows, Bitcoin, no bullshit, and it's definitely always a fun to watch you or listen to you and learn from you. So, Matt, maybe a little bit, why are you doing these shows and what do you take out of them?
I like to talk about Bitcoin, so I'm doing that anyway. And Marty's become a good friend of mine, so it's always good to just meet up with him and talk Bitcoin. But I think our discussions help a lot of people, and it creates further discussion on Twitter and Telegram. Bitcoin is this crazy shift in so many ways you think about the world, and it can be really confusing and really overwhelming. And it seemed like a good fit for me. I have this feeling where I want to give back to the Bitcoin community and to Bitcoin, and this is a good way of me filling that role. It seems like a good fit, at least.
Oh, yes, I really agree. You learn an incredible amount when you start teaching others because it is you applying your own understanding, right? You have accumulated all this information about Bitcoin and about all this cool stuff happening here, and then you internally understand it, right? And then when you teach it to others, when you actively speak it, you apply it into the real world. And that's actually where you achieve wisdom. And then with this experience of teaching it to others, you learn a tremendous amount. And I mean, I've been doing here these videos for the World Crypto Network since I think in March or May or June 2018, and I've learned a tremendous amount in just that short period of time, and met a phenomenal many people. So it's definitely a great learning experience.
It's pretty crazy how much information is available in this space. There's just I don't think there's been anything like that before in terms of new technology with the access you have from anywhere around the world because of the internet. But there's so much noise as well, and there's so much bad information. So one of the reasons that I became more vocal, I was more of like the lurker type, and I became more vocal was because we had all the scaling arguments and debates and Segwit 2x and whatnot. And there was just so much noise that I was trying to cut through it all. And I thought I could help other people do that.
Yes, exactly. And I really like your pinned tweet here. Please don't trust me. I'm merely a tool in your quest for knowledge. My aim is to help you, but I demand you to do your own due diligence. Read a lot, discuss and argue, test your ideas on others, understand what you're investing in, please. And absolutely, this is all that we can do is share information with you, and you can accumulate it and take it in, right? That's where we can help you, and we can package this information nicely so that it is accessible. But understanding is a fundamental internal process. That's something that only you can achieve on your own. And of course, that includes teaching it to others, right? That's what I just said earlier on how you can understand such a complex topic. And then, of course, the next step is applying it in your own life. So you can teach others, right? You can hodl Bitcoin. You can build your own business with Bitcoin and be an entrepreneur joining us here in this economy. And we're all pretty much just blindly stabbing in the dark and somehow trying to figure out what Satoshi gave us here with Bitcoin as a sound money. And it definitely is a wild rabbit hole.
I've had so many haters call me a tool because of that, because I said I'm a tool in that tweet. Fucking great. Epic tweet. That was from that. If you look at the date, that was from, it was like the top of the market, December 2017.
Yep, December 15th.
Everything is going crazy. So many fucking charlatans.
Yes.
It was only 2 years ago. That's pretty crazy. 2 years ago? 1 year ago, right?
Yeah, like 14 months or so. And time
14
flies.
months.
Right?
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy how extremely fast block time goes? It's insane. I mean, 2018 went by in such a quick succession. It's crazy. How can we keep up with that?
I don't know. It also goes the other way. It feels like an eternity, you know? Like I can't, it feels like forever ago that, you know, we were worried about Segwit 2x and all that, but that was, I guess, like 16 months ago. Feels like that was 5 years ago or something like that.
Oh, yes. Right. And I actually have on my phone a countdown since when we had Segwit 2x. And that's exactly, let me open it up right here, 553 days. So it's been quite a while. And I have a countdown here because that's when the last time that I worried about Bitcoin, and definitely the last time since I held any fiat currency, because I mean, UASF pretty much proved that Bitcoin is unstoppable, especially in the combination here with no 2x afterwards. Oh, and I actually had a tweet, a poll just a couple of days ago, asking the people what they think, which event was more important. The user activated soft fork, which showed that a dedicated group of individuals, right, only a couple entrepreneurs and coders making here the segregated witness code, that they can push it through if they do not break consensus, if it is in accordance with a soft fork. That was a huge success, right? We can update Bitcoin. But then on the other hand, we had no 2x, which was a defensive maneuver against a malicious hard fork change to Bitcoin. So it was a change to the consensus rules, right? A block increase. And especially because it was implemented in a hard fork, it did not succeed. So, Matt, what do you think is more important? That Bitcoin can be changed in accordance with consensus, or that it cannot be changed when you try to change it outside of consensus?
I think the more important thing is that it can't be changed. That's the key value driver. It's as a system, it is resistant to change above all else. You know, Segwit took a critical mass. It took years and years of arguing back and forth and people making up their minds about what they wanted to do. And it finally hit a critical mass and hit a critical mass of support. And then those who took part in UASF, they, you know, created the game theoretical decision there for all participants if they wanted to risk a contentious issue here, or if they wanted to proceed with something that pretty much everyone agreed that was a net benefit, and they went along with it. But the key value driver is that it's resistant to change. The user activated soft fork wasn't a small minority of people changing Bitcoin. It was a small minority of people forcing the majority to make a decision, right? Or pushing their hand to make a decision. And it was the overwhelming majority of the Bitcoin ecosystem that went along with it, right? And then you basically had Bitcoin Cash happen at the same time, which was the people who disagreed with it. Which actually probably helped in that situation, because a lot of the people that would have been contentious just forked off.
Yes, I agree. I tend to think that the unchangeability is really important because it removes the uneasiness of an uncertain future. One thing is for certain, it's that 21 million Bitcoins will never be reached, right? That is something that we can calculate with as entrepreneurs here with this sound money. And it's a tremendous tool to have this. Something that we have never seen before in a sound monetary system, definitely not in a fiat system. And it's quite beautiful in that fact that Bitcoin is unchangeable, especially for something like the monetary issuance rate. However, of course, when there are some bugs, it's nice to know that we can still update it as long as we are on major consensus that the update is worth it, like we saw with SegWit, which is a net positive on so many regards. And of course, one thing that SegWit made possible was the Lightning Network, right? Without SegWit, we do not have a malleability fix, and therefore we cannot have open payment channels. And one thing that we have for the Lightning Network now, something that Hodlow now started, is the Lightning Network trust chain. And Jack, you're currently Matt, you're currently holding the torch. So maybe could you elaborate a little bit what the Lightning Network trust chain is and how it all started?
So the Lightning Network trust chain was created by this guy Hodl on Twitter. I think you have him there in the screenshot there at Hodl on Twitter. He started out with, I think, 100,000 Satoshis. How much is 100,000 Satoshis? That's like $10 or something.
Not a cent or so.
Oh, it's super cheap.
Yeah.
We all have to start thinking like Satoshis. Anyway, he started out with 100,000 Satoshis, and the idea was you send it to someone you trust on Twitter, and you trust that they're going to send it to another person. And so you're basically vouching for the next person. So if the next person in line decides to keep it, then you're supposed to then continue it by sending to another person. And you're supposed to add 10,000 Satoshis every time you send it to another person. So it keeps increasing. Now it's at 2.86 million Satoshis, which is what was 2.85 million Satoshis, which was sent to me. And then I have to send 2.86 million Satoshis. So it's gotten quite large. And every person's only supposed to do it once. So they were starting to run out of people, and someone tagged me and was like, Matt, you haven't done this yet. You have to do this. So I'm doing it. And I'm trying to pass the torch now. But I'll tell you, I've learned a lot about Lightning through this whole process. It's really a great educational process.
Right, it really is a great educational process because you actually apply this technology, right? You can't just talk about Lightning Network and then only do it theoretically in such a long trust chain. You actually have to have a node. You have to have enough inbound liquidity so that you can receive the payment. And then you have to have enough outbound liquidity, and you have to find a good route in order to send this payment. And of course, that is easy when we only start with 100,000 Satoshis, which Doug209 in the chat says correctly. It's $3.42. Had a little miscalculations here. Yes, we should all switch to Satoshis. Who cares about this volatile fiat price anyhow? So then it is rather easy to send and receive these payments because you usually have larger payment channels on the network in order to do this routing. But right now, with 2.8 million Satoshis, quite a couple Satoshis, this actually means that there needs to be large channels. What is it, like 100 and or not? How many US dollars is that?
It's $100. It's like $98.
Okay, so $100, right? So
it went from $350 to $98. That's pretty crazy.
And in such an incremental step, right?
Yeah, it was going up like 30 cents at a time.
Yes, and there was a fantastic video which I'm going to search right now. LN Trust Chain, or let's actually do Lightning Network Trust Chain, which showed the right here the visualization of this entire conundrum, and it's quite beautiful to see how Bitcoin is spread all over the globe. Right? Yes, a lot is focused in Europe and, of course, in America. But still, this is going to end up, this payment, several times across the entire continent. And the total fees, as you can see here in the right, are ridiculous. I mean, we're just now, after 60 hops, we reach 1 cent, $1 cent in total fees. It's ridiculous. It really is. And look at this. We've really spread across the entire globe here. And please tell me any other technology with which this is possible. Any censorship resistant and instant payment protocol. It is insane. Lightning Network is here. It works.
But it's still in its early stages still, right? So everyone has to remember there's still plenty of drawbacks. And it's designed more for, especially at this stage, it's designed for smaller payments. So what we're basically doing now at this point is we're stress testing it, because no one's sending $100 payments around. I mean, very few people are. And as this thing gets bigger, it's gonna become more and more of a stress test. It's pretty cool.
Yes, right, it is. And it's real money. It's reckless. Reckless as hell, actually, because I mean, seriously, this is a hot wallet that is always connected to the internet, that has to be always connected to the internet in such a way that if you are offline, actually you can lose money. So this is something really serious. And then it's still in such a early stage, and we're still missing so many essential tools to make it even more accessible and easy. But already it is super fluid. And we have here in the chat Xayai Zaza saying that this is tight. I'll have to get in this too. And absolutely, he mentioned just above here that now he finally has his Lightning node set up with Pierre Richard's Lightning node launcher, and now he has the chance of experiencing how this can actually work, and how you both can receive and send payments, right? So this is learning by doing, and hopefully we've introduced many new peers to the network with this little game here on Twitter. It's phenomenal.
And so the other thing to mention is there's two main types of wallets, right? In Lightning right now, you have the custodial wallets, and you have the wallets where you control your own keys when you run a full node. And a lot of people have been choosing to go with the custodial wallets. The big one is Blue Wallet, and so you're trusting a third party if you're using Blue Wallet, with the advantage that a lot of the nitty gritty stuff, like managing your channels and all these, balancing your liquidity, gets handled by Blue Wallet for you. So if I wanted to make this easy, we could easily send the payment through Blue Wallet, and we could have them handle it, custodial to the custodial wallet. Even if we did custodial to a Zap full node, an LND full node with Zap on it, it's still, you're trusting a third party in it. The other thing you can do to get around the liquidity issues is you can just open a channel directly, from node to node. And then you basically have unbounded liquidity because you opened a direct channel with them. We're trying not to do that either, because that kind of seems like a cop out. So we're trying to send this payment. When I pass this torch, the plan is to go from full node and multi-hop. We want multiple hops, not a direct jump, and then receive with the full node. So it's a true Lightning payment, like they're meant to be.
Yes, exactly. And there are, of course, several different custodial wallets. I personally am using OpenNode right here for my Tallycoin fundraiser. So when you are actually going down here and when you are doing, I need to be signed in for that. Or no, wait, we can do this here. So when you are doing, for example, here, let's say a 50-cent tip, right? Then when we have this money does not go to my own Nodl, which I have in the background here, but it actually goes to OpenNode. And this means that it is not really pure Bitcoin, right? Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. But I would argue that this is especially true for on-chain funds, right? When you are doing a on-chain payment, all you need to do is that you have to have a um, or that you have to have a private key, one single private information key, in order then to send and receive these payments. And it's much easier to do that on chain. But with the Lightning Network, it's not just that you have to have a little secret. You actually have to have you have to be online, right? You need to have multiple secrets, not just your hierarchical deterministic wallet seed, but actually a bunch of different secrets like the hash pre-images and the revocation transactions. And then further, you need to have open channels and liquidity on them, both outbound liquidity that you can spend money and inbound liquidity so that you can receive funds. And this is not necessarily too easy, right? It's a bit more complex than just having on-chain funds. So Matt, do you think that custodial wallets make more sense on the Lightning Network than they do on-chain?
Well, especially at this stage, especially for receiving payments, custodial makes a lot more sense. Because you don't have to worry about it. You just pay OpenNode 1% of all the Bitcoin that come in. You don't have to worry about managing your channels. You don't have to worry about keeping it on all the time. So they're basically the two options you have is like running something like BTC Pay Server or using OpenNode. Those are your two options. And OpenNode is plug and play, super easy. I think it's like 2 API calls and does everything for you. But BTC Pay Server is like a lot more complicated to use. But if you do it, you have full sovereignty. So those are the trade-offs. I think, custodial options aren't the worst thing in the world. They serve a purpose. I noticed firsthand with Lightning, they make it, especially at this stage, they make it way more user friendly. Like I downloaded Blue Wallet to test it out during this whole process, and they make it really easy for you. They have like a built-in marketplace and stuff where you can pay for things with Lightning. It's really cool. But
Yeah, they
it's
do,
another
right? And
risk. They can take your money, right? So you have that as an issue that you're always, so you just, but at this stage, it's so early that it's like, you shouldn't keep that much money on Lightning to begin with, even if you're running your own node. So custodial, the risk isn't as high because you're already keeping not that much money there, right?
yes, absolutely. And the again, right? It is a hot wallet. Your funds are online. Your IP address is known. And again, when you are inactive, there is a risk of losing funds. So it is, in my opinion, much more risky than having, for example, the Samurai wallet on your mobile phone, right?
But the other thing is, like the plan is for watchtowers, right? So you don't have to always be online. That's going to be in the future. Basically, you have like a server that's watching and publishes the punishing transaction if you're not online and someone tries to steal your money. And yeah, but besides that, so you have to watch. There was another thing that, these are issues that are more early days issues that should, for the most part, make it so that non-custodial options are more appealing to people, I think.
Yes, I
Oh, that
agree.
was the other thing I was going to say. With these two custodial things, Blue Wallet and OpenNode, they don't require KYC, right? Like I'm pretty sure OpenNode doesn't require KYC if it's Bitcoin only, right?
Exactly, yes. You only have to log in with your email, which can be a sock puppet email, which is free, and then a password. So no fancy private keys and no state channels and what so. It's really easy and intuitive. And yes, when you do not exchange it into fiat onto your bank account, it is completely free. Sorry, it is without KYC. And it is also free for the first 10,000 US dollars in things. So I think here with Tallycoin, I've gotten something like $40 in Lightning donations so far. Probably most of them was me for testing. And then so far, I still have 9,700 something or 9,900 something US dollars for free processing. And I already did a couple withdrawals onto my own Lightning node, which is a great way of receiving inbound liquidity. And that works flawlessly and is again completely cheap or free. So you can either opt in for a regular every single day, every single minute Lightning Network withdrawal, or you can do a on-chain withdrawal for which you will have to pay for. But they also, and I love this, they have a weekly batching withdrawal transaction. So you can get a free on-chain transaction withdrawal where they batch all the payments of all their customers, so that it's going to be one giant transaction on the blockchain that will save a lot of block space compared to a bunch of individual transactions. And that is fantastic. And in the meantime, right, I showed here this, I showed my little QR code right here, and it got paid just a second ago. And by whom? Well, we do not know. That's the beauty of the Lightning Network. It is private by default. Nobody actually knows from whom you got these payments, or even with something like rendezvous routing, you cannot even be certain to whom you are sending these payments. So the beautiful thing with Lightning Network is not just scalability in the sense of fast and cheap transactions, but also privacy in the form of nobody knows exactly what you are doing with your money. And that is a fantastic combination, don't you think?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I brought up the fact that they don't do KYC, right? Because with these custodial things, the privacy is a major issue for one of the reasons. Besides the fact that, you know, not your keys, not your coins, the privacy issue is always a big issue. So the fact that both of these options lets you do without KYC makes them way more appealing custodial wise. And the batching is just badass. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, agreed. And we have another great question here by Xaya Zaza. How does Lightning Peach, the wallet from Bitfury, think that they can expose Lightning Network? And there was a little drama as Bitfury released this wallet product that they have very, very, let's say, invasive privacy guides, or how do you call it in terms of service, that they can pretty much spy on you even when you only log into your to your wallet, and it will keep all your records of payments, when and where you are when you make these payments, on what websites you use them, on what physical locations, and you know, a bunch of other privacy concerns. So again, right, even when we have a non-custodial wallet like the Peach wallet is, when it does not obey by good cypherpunk philosophies, then it can be quite de-anonymizing. So the best thing that you can do is run your own Lightning Network node over Tor and then connect to it with a mobile wallet, with a good one that is open source and does not break your privacy.
Yeah, I mean, all these, that's why it's all, yeah, you need open source wallets. You need them heavily reviewed because you're probably not going to be able to review the code yourself. Don't go for like the flashy new wallet that's on the App Store. And Bitfury in general has shown a lack of regard for privacy. So you just shouldn't use their products. But I don't think anyone's actually, I assume Peachy is open source. I don't know if anyone actually looked at the code yet. Everyone just says you should just assume they're bad. Oh, the terms of service was really bad. The terms of service said that they were going to collect, but I don't think anyone actually looked at the code.
Yes, I haven't neither looked at the code, but I do believe that it is open source, which is, of course, fundamentally important. Never ever touch a closed source wallet. That would be horrific. But well, maybe let's get back here a little bit to the lightning torch. And you've tweeted out here a couple hours ago, "Yo, Jack, the CEO of Twitter, you're ready to carry the torch? Send me an invoice for 2.8 million satoshis, Lightning Network Trust Chain, and Bitcoin. You know, Jack, this will be a lot easier once you integrate Bitcoin Lightning tips directly into Twitter. A lot of people here seem to doubt your ability to send me a payment request, but I'll give you another 3 hours before I pass the torch to someone else." Oh, okay. So we're getting a little spicy here. Why did you specifically call out Jack here to take over the torch? And do you think that he'll integrate Lightning into Twitter?
So he was an investor in Lightning Labs, Elizabeth Stark's company, and I think that came out like 8 months ago or something like that. And then he's also the CEO of Cash App, and Cash App has added Bitcoin support, right? Bitcoin buy, sell. It's America only, but it's one of the easiest ways to buy in America. And then he was just recently on the Joe Rogan podcast where he had some really good things to say about Bitcoin. So when I decided to do the trust chain thing, I was like, I'm gonna shoot for the big dogs, and I just had to decide which big dog I was gonna shoot for, and Jack seemed like a good fit. It's his platform. Lightning tips would be a perfect fit for Twitter. Basically what tippin.me is doing. Tippin.me has it all linked to Twitter accounts. Like you could just go to tippin.me and type in a Twitter account name, and if they're set up already, which is like a one-click setup, you can send them Lightning tips without an invoice or anything right now. He could do it super easy on Twitter. It could be the easiest thing ever. And they take a little cut like OpenNode does, and boom, they have a monetization strategy. And it's global, and they don't have to worry about doing all these banking deals and stuff around the world because they're a global company. It'd be, super easy, like as a 2-year plan, 3-year plan. Seemed like a perfect fit.
Yes, exactly. And tipping me here is another great service. Although, yes, it is custodial, right? It is still, in my opinion, one of the nice services here, where you can easily get your Lightning Network tips. So, for example, I know that Hodlo is well, I should spell his name correctly. Well, okay, forget it. He is here on Tipping Me as well, and it's very convenient. It's similar to Tallycoin right here, where you can also just send a little Lightning donation for one-time payment. Well, Tallycoin has some more additional features, but Tipping Me is another great service. And again, the withdrawal from this custodial wallet is for free over Lightning Network nodes. And then again, right? Why not? It's easy to set this up once and kind of forget about all the channel management and have enough inbound capacity. And of course, we also see some fantastic stuff with other Lightning Network integrations, like, for example, Sputnik or Donner Lab working on some fantastic Lightning Network powered games, right? That you can have here, kind of a tower defense game, or there are other peers like Satoshi Games working on this, or the Penguin Shooter. There are many different ways of using Lightning Network in interactive gameplays. And we already see that e-commerce sorry, not e-commerce, but esports with competitive paid games is a huge market economy. And now with having the sound internet money, the magic internet money, I just believe that this is going to go through the roof. Matt, where do you see games and Lightning Network?
Oh, I'm so excited. I've been so excited for years now, and starting to come together. I think that it's the future of. I think it's the future of gaming and gambling. I think it's going to combine both, and as the kids get older, it'll become like the preferred way of gambling as well. And it's just, I mean, the thing is, a lot of these applications, they could do already with the current payments networks. Like technically they could do it. Like if you had something like Fortnite could easily run tournaments where everyone puts in $5 and the last man out of 100 who stands gets $500. Like they could easily do that. The issue is regulations. They would have to, it's just way too much of a regulatory hurdle. What are they going to, they have to take ages of people? Is gambling legal in their country? Is it a skill-based game in their country? How does that work? Or, you know, do they have to take KYC of everyone? How do they cash out? How do they do all these other things? Lightning and Bitcoin take that out of the equation. Like you can launch a game from a friendly locale, or you can launch it anonymously. You can easily syndicate games out to different platforms now. It's way easier to self-publish, and you can have this whole financial incentive built into the gameplay. You know, one of the ones I always thought about when I, you know, for years I've just been dreaming of playing this game, is basically like Counter-Strike, but every time I kill someone, they pay me. Like the person I killed pays me a little bit of money, like sends me some Satoshis. And then if I get killed, I send them some Satoshis. So it's literally like your kill death spread is how much money you make or you lose. I think that'd be pretty badass.
Yes, agreed. That would be a great opportunity. And we see right, for example, here, this is the penguin shooter. Oh, that just dropped. Where is it? Oh, right here it is. And it is cool, right? For example, there's a little QR code here at the wall, and when you pay it, a little explosive goes off, and the entire wall here has a hole which you can then walk through. So this is an interactive map that changes in accordance to whether or not you are paying with the Lightning Network, right? And then, for example, here also, Konstantin worked on a little Minecraft server that accepts Lightning Network payments, and you can get an invoice, and and then you get a map, right? A Minecraft map with the QR code. You pay it, and then the transaction goes through. And right here, you see it's instant. It's crazy. And then you can get teleported to other parts of the map, or you can buy and sell different goods, like a axe or a sword or some piece of armor, with other online players. It's crazy. It really is. And again, Lightning Network is barely a year live on mainnet, so we are still early as hell, and there are so many more improvements to come. But already, it's a joy to transact every day.
I mean, the applications are just, there's so many crazy applications you could do, especially when you like, I never got into it, but this whole fascination with Twitch and watching live gameplay, people gaming, the fact that, you know, I've never been a huge fan of QR codes, but they've been like a huge part of my life for like over a half decade now, which is fucking crazy. But they actually work really well for this, watching a stream of a game. Either person could be like anywhere in the world, and it interacts perfectly with your phone to send a payment from your phone wallet, or from Jewel, like the extension, the Chrome extension. And you don't have to worry about any kind of like Bluetooth or USB or Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. It just goes through the QR code. It's a pretty nice UX there. You can be really creative about it.
Oh yes, it really is. The Lightning Jewel plugin, which is available for all major browsers that you could think of, is, in my opinion, the best Lightning wallet, or the best Bitcoin wallet that I've seen in a long time. It's extremely intuitive. I love that you can give permission to a website to repeatedly give you an invoice and then automatically pay it. So, for example, when I have a website like here, Lightning Spin, .com, which is a little gambling site. I can then send or say, okay, I want to bet 1,000 Satoshis. Then I press spin right here. It pops up a little invoice. Takes a little bit right here for 1,000 Satoshis. And I can confirm that. Have to type in my little my little password. And I can here ask to not type in the password again in the session, right? I press unlock and payment goes or should go through right here. It is instantly accepted right there. And we're rolling the little wheel right here. It should land on, what did I bet? I think I bet on gray. Does it? Yay! And now I've won 2,000 Satoshis. And I could withdraw this now. It automatically generates the invoice withdrawal from Lightning Spin. I confirm that. And instantly I see up here in the Joule that I have an invoice. Or wait, here I need the transactions. Right here, I got 2,000 sats. As easy as this, that I send one transaction and receive one. I mean, isn't that insane? That's how easy, that's how smooth this was to send and receive a payment. It's great.
And it's only getting better every day. The pace of improvement has been mind-blowing to watch.
Yes, it really is. And the very first time where I made a Lightning on-chain transaction was back in December 2017, and it was so insane because back then, right, everything was command line, everything was hacky, and nothing worked. Every payment failed at a minimum of 20 times before the route succeeded. There were like a handful of nodes on the network, and now only 1 year later, we have stuff like this. Right, amazing gambling sites that can be paid with your Lightning Joule plugin with a single click. It's crazy. It's so much fun, and as you said, it's getting better every single day. Where are we going to be next year? What are we going to do?
Who the hell even knows, man? It's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. I love it. It's one of the most exciting times to be involved with Bitcoin right now. I think we're going to see some pretty crazy things happen.
Yes, I agree. And in my opinion, one of the coolest things about Lightning is that it incentivizes you to actually run a Bitcoin full node. Because if you don't have a Bitcoin full node, again, you can be stolen from, right? And until we have Neutrino and watchtowers and all that, you really have to run your own full node. Otherwise, it's not possible at all. So, of course, we can have something like a Raspberry Pi node right here, which you can either get right from the Raspberry Blitz or Raspberry Bolt, or you get the Casa node, which is, of course, cool, but Raspberry Pi is not so powerful. On the other hand, right up here, we have the Nodl up and running, connected to my Joule node, to the Joule wallet, to the Zap wallet, right, to my BTC Pay server. And it's fantastic to have this dedicated, always-on financial battle station to handle all your financial needs, right? I mean, just imagine to have a little device like this, run Bitcoin D or Bitcoin Core, which in and of itself is already mind-blowing. I mean, this is your central bank. You are making your financial monetary policies, which is crazy, right? And you have that. Then you have your Lightning Network node, which means that you get your payment process or your payment mechanism, right? The payment rails of your sound money currency with instant cheap payments. I mean, why not? Then you have BTC Pay Server, which is basically your registry, right? You can self-host a shop and put that on your e-commerce site, or when you're selling something in a physical, real-world location, you can have that as well. And then potentially even we can have more advanced wallets like the Wasabi wallet on there, so that all your incoming funds can be coin joined with Charmian coin joins, or maybe with pay to endpoint or some other privacy and anonymity schemes. And then you can buy your Bitcoin with the decentralized and self-hosted Bisq exchange, all happening here, right here on the Nodl. So all your financial needs can be handled on this one dedicated, always-on device, just like your internet router is going to handle all your communicational needs for your censorship-resistant communication machine. Isn't that fantastic? And do you think that we'll see more and more people running their own nodes?
I really like these nodes in a box. I like it's kind of like what the original dream for PCs were, or at least what I've been told, since I'm not old enough to remember that. That you have you have a secure server at home that runs everything. And that could be lightning stuff. That could be, all sorts of, all the things that people use Google for, like notes and documents and storing your photos and all these other things can all go to your personal home server. And I think that that is the ideal path forward, with the caveat that the important thing is that at any point you can run all this stuff on your own hardware if you want to. So we'll always have hobby users running it on their own hardware. I think, unfortunately, the majority of people are still going to use custodial things, at least for the near to medium future, because people are lazy. And that's why there's a reason people started using Gmail instead of running their own email server in the first place. And that was just convenience. And also they just didn't think they were capable of doing it securely. But you'll have the hobbyists that'll be running their own hardware. It's important that they always can, that anyone can spin up a node if they need to with reasonable requirements, nothing too crazy, nothing too expensive, nothing too hard to access. And then the majority of the advanced users will use like a node in the box for like pretty much all of their internet things. And then the overwhelming majority of people will unfortunately be using custodial. As they get burned, they'll probably switch, because now your money's on the line. So you feel when you lose actual real money, you immediately see the value in full sovereignty.
Yes, I agree that that Bitcoin might be a great opportunity of making sure that we are now taking back control over our cyberspace identity. Right? That's something that Bitcoin has fundamentally taught me. Before I got crazy with Bitcoin, I was not that much concerned about neither my privacy nor my digital or cyberspace security. And Bitcoin teaches you that it is important to control your own keys. It just happens that in Bitcoin, if you don't do it, you're going to lose money. And well, if you don't control your Facebook keys, all that is going to happen is that people spy on you, which, although of course it sucks, and many people already, for them, that is enough to take responsibility over their cyberspace life. But for most people, they don't care too much. But well, money, that's something very, very different. And I mean, oh, okay, don't find my keys right now, but like right now I have on my keychain at all times a Tails USB bootable stick, my YubiKey for my PGP encryption and the password manager and all that stuff. Right, I'm running a Purism open source laptop. I got my financial battle station right back there, thinking about how I can do my own data storage and email server similar to the Nodl right here. And all my communication is routed over Tor with VPNs and all that stuff. Bitcoin teaches you this. And yes, we are still in the niche, right? The few percent that actually actively care about this and want to change something and are willing to invest their time, attention, and money into this. But I think Bitcoin will give just a couple more people this extra push. And then hopefully we'll find further technologies that will make it much more easier and stuff. So Rolando texts us in the chat that, lol, you lost your keys. Yes, I did. Can't find my keychain. Oh no. So, Matt, do you think that that Bitcoin in and of itself is it enough to push a vast majority of the people over the edge, or do you think we need even more liberating technologies?
I think I agree with Poor of the Machine that you shouldn't, got to be a little bit tighter with your OPSEC. You don't want to talk about how you store everything, but like where you keep you should find your keys too, but that's besides the point. I think, people need to have there needs to be like critical mass points, right? There's like inflection points where people, stuff like the Equifax hack, where just like literally every American's information was compromised, like every single adult in America. Things like the Facebook hack, stuff like that, even things like like the fappening when all those photos got released from the celebrities' iClouds, like the high public privacy breaches, and the more information we put on the internet, the bigger these breaches will be. So as you have big breaches, one by one, like people will start caring more. But until then, they're just going to be complacent. The human condition.
Yes, and I agree. But right again, the Equifax had, as troublesome as it was only your information, right? It was not your money. And I think there is already a big difference, and hopefully it is enough. And Piers, it is no longer January 3rd, but still here proof of keys with here the Tails USB stick and the YubiKey. So proof of keys, I still got them. We're in the pocket all along. And right, but that's it right here. On this little thing, I have a clean operating system with Electrum as a Bitcoin wallet pre-installed, and of course, right here the YubiKey for all the encryption and the password manager and PGPs and email encryption and all that. It's getting much easier.
I love Tails. Tails is fucking awesome.
Right?
And it's so underrated, that Electrum integration. People don't talk about that enough. It's fantastic. Yeah. Tails, Electrum's built into Tails. That was like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago they did it.
Something maybe a little bit longer. And so the cool thing with Tails is you plug in the USB stick and then you boot a new operating system only on the USB stick and on the RAM of the laptop or computer. And as soon as you power down the machine, it's going to delete everything that you did in this session, and all the communication is encrypted over Tor. So it's a really secure and private way of, for example, generating private keys in your cold storage, for example. But the cool thing is that you have Electrum on the Tails pre-installed. You don't even have to do anything with it. And the really cool thing is that once you start Electrum on Tails once and you generate keys, they are actually stored encrypted on the USB stick itself. So you can use the same Electrum wallet in a new Tails session every time, although everything else got deleted. And now something that I've been a bit fooling around with Adam Fisk or Nopara from Wasabi Wallet is thinking on how we can integrate Wasabi on top of that. Thing is that Wasabi itself is rather resource intensive, and most likely it will not yet be integrated on Tails itself. But what we could do is, for example, you boot Tails once, you open up Electrum, you generate a new mnemonic seed, and that is being stored on the key itself. So every time you plug in the USB key with Tails, you're going to have the same private keys. And then on every session, you can download the Wasabi Wallet Debian packages over Tor and install it every time anew. But then the Wasabi Wallet recognizes the Tails operating system, and it pulls the private key that is stored on there that was generated with Electrum. And then you can use the same private key for every new session with Wasabi Wallet that you have downloaded every time. And that would be great. If we have Wasabi Wallet running smoothly on Tails, perfect. What else could we want?
That's badass. I had no idea that was in the works. I also huge fan of Wasabi Wallet. Wasabi Wallet is a big fucking deal as well.
Yes, it really is. And Charmian CoinJoins, or well, after the latest update, Schnorr CoinJoins, Schnorrian CoinJoins doesn't sound as nice. It's really good. It's the best we can get today with privacy for CoinJoins, right? There are some other cool tricks that you can do, like pay to endpoint and other cool stuff that Samurai is doing. So there are other projects out there, but Wasabi Wallet is really, really advanced, and it's a pleasure to use. It's my favorite hot wallet, my favorite software wallet that I have right now, and it's a joy, right? And you can use your CoinJoint coins, for example, the 0.1 Bitcoin denomination, to open up your Lightning Network payment channels. And then you have your public Lightning Network node, right? But the history of your money is obfuscated. So nobody knows the history of your money from where it came to when you funded your Lightning Network node, which the Lightning Network node, of course, you will have open for several months, years. So you really have to make sure that the money that you use to fund these Lightning Network nodes is private. And a Wasabi Wallet, CoinJoin, UTXO is perfect for that. Matt, are there any other major privacy-focused privacy-focused projects that you're really looking forward to in the near future?
I'm excited for Schnorr to get added to Bitcoin. I think there seems to be pretty good consensus about that. And hopefully, ideally, that will lead to CoinJoins being cheaper than regular transactions because the signatures will be combined. The iterations of upgrades on Wasabi has just been absolutely mind-blowing. They've just been cleaning up the UX and making it way easier for people. People have been talking about a wallet like this since like Dark Wallet, since Cody and Amir were talking about Dark Wallet, and that never came to fruition. I remember being like a super big Dark Wallet bull back in the day. That was going to be the thing that gave Bitcoin better privacy, and it never really came to fruition. And seeing Wasabi now, a very user-friendly experience. It just, CoinJoins in general aren't a very user-friendly situation, but they do a really good job with it, and it's really great to see.
Yes, I would definitely agree that it is really cool to see that more and more we are going to have great projects like this to help you with your privacy, right? We need better tools for this. And Wasabi Wallet is one of the hopefully soon to be many tools that are really great to help you reclaim your privacy. And of course, another really, really nice project for this, something that I have right here, right, is the Gotenna mesh network. So we see here that let's reload that page. We see that Gotenna is used to build up mesh networks. So mesh networks are a way of communicating without a internet connection. You have these little devices right here, and they are communicating with a radio frequency with each other, similarly to a Lightning network, as we see here a little bit down there, with different hops. So when we have Alice right here, and Bob, Charlie, David, and here's Ellie, then Alice can send a message to Ellie over here, Bob, Charlie, and David. And it is onion encrypted, so neither of these peers knows whom is communicating what to whom. And it's really decentralized and private. So regardless where you are, as long as you have a couple peers joining you here with this mesh network, you can communicate at a minimum text messages, but also some crazy stuff like Bitcoin transactions with the TX10 app and the Samurai app or wallet. So mesh networks are fantastic, and we had Richard a couple times here on the World Crypto Network already, and Matt, I know you joined that conversation actually as well last year. So what are your thoughts on mesh networks and Gotenna specifically?
I came on with Richard, and I actually met him later. I met him recently when he was in my hood. It was pretty great. Great dude. I'm really bullish on Gotenna. I really like their product. A lot of places you can't get on your internet is censored. And in a lot of places your internet is shitty. And in those two situations, and for both reasons, they can be out of your control. So like if you're able to, any solution that we have to be able to communicate those last like 5 miles, 6 miles, that range does a huge difference for these people in these situations, for access to data and to access to Bitcoin. So we have right now there's a project going on in Venezuela that BTC Ven is doing. I think it's Loca Mesh, they're calling it. It uses the LoRa mesh tech and they're like these little boards. Those are a big fucking deal for those can be a big fucking deal for the people of Venezuela, because they don't have reliable internet that isn't, and the internet that they do get is, you know, is monitored as best as the Venezuelan people can do. So that's it's being able, one of the weakest points for Bitcoin is the infrastructure we run on top of, which is the internet. So if we can separate that from Bitcoin a bit and make it so you have all these other channels where this data can go through, that's a really important priority to increase Bitcoin's state resistance.
Yes, absolutely. And right, communication again is great. And I love these devices both for going out hiking, because in the mountains you rarely have good cell connection, and also for festivals. So the last time that I was at a festival with a couple of friends, we all had Gotenna mesh devices with us, and we were communicating with each other, although we did not have Wi-Fi. Right, because everyone was leeching off it and didn't work, and of course you don't want to connect to the Wi-Fi of such public conferences anyhow. And then with these mesh network, it's great. And you can have some really cool features like burst transactions, where all of a sudden you tell everyone in your reach about this message that you want to send. And that's really cool. If you want to say, like, hi, I'm here now, and you can meet me over there, and everyone in your vicinity knows about this, it's really great. And there's also some, for example, security or SOS transactions where you can call for help when you really need it. And this is really handy. It can be life-saving, actually, and especially in those areas where the infrastructure is breaking down, which, of course, right, that can happen at any time. And having different ways here of communicating is fantastic. But again, it's not just communication. It's much more than that. Actually, you can send Bitcoin transactions over your mesh network with the TX10 app, because Bitcoin transactions are rather small. They are still large, right? They're not. You actually need to have 3 communication bursts from one Gotenna mesh to another before a full transaction is propagated, but that happens pretty instantly. And then you only need to have one full node or one smartphone that is connected to the internet in order to broadcast this transaction then to the rest of the Bitcoin network. And when we have larger mesh networks built out, then this is much easier to do. So it's fantastic to see what we can do with such devices. And it's much more than just communication. And again, this is really important for Bitcoin to stay censorship resistant. So, Matt, do you think that we can see further improvements here with the communication way of Bitcoin and the transactions?
I think the next step in like the big bottleneck right now is, so like with mesh has generally been more hobbyist communities and people who absolutely need it because it's been like complicated to set up and stuff. So one of the things that's cool about Gotenna is that it's a little brick, it connects by Bluetooth to your phone, and it charges through micro USB. Everyone has a charger. So if you want to set up like a node or something, it's like super easy to put up a node. You just need it to have micro USB power. You can use like a solar battery pack or something like that, whatever. Plug it into some kind of outside outlet or something, whatever it is, set up a node. The big step up is when it's easy to go back to our node in a box ideas, when it's easy for you to have a node set up that just hops it back to the real internet. And Gotenna has a mode for you to have like a phone sitting there to do that. And that's how transaction tenna works too. Like if there's a phone that's running transaction tenna and a Gotenna node and is connected to the internet, it's supposed to blast it out to the wider Bitcoin network. But we basically need more powerful versions of that. So if you have some kind of mesh node bridge where it's able to then connect to other, maybe receive data from like the Blockstream satellite, confirm it against the internet, and then send it out through mesh, you have some crazy possibilities there, and it makes it way easier to put like real good throughput through the mesh, the mesh networks, like actual usable data.
Yes, agreed. It is really easy to pair your GoTenna mesh with your phone. You download the app and it's pressing one button. So it really is plug and play. Right? Mesh networks have been here for a couple of years now, but they haven't really caught up with activity because so far it was really much only the hobbyist community. But with something like GoTenna Mesh, it's much easier and much more convenient to start your own mesh network just with a handful of devices. And then the really cool thing is that they have also just recently released the USB SDK, the software developer kit. And this means that you can now connect your GoTenna mesh device with any USB hardware. For example, your laptop. For example, your Raspberry Pi. For example, the Nodl itself. So what we can have in the really near future is going to have a little antenna out of the Nodl that will simply transmit the blocks, the blockchain transactions, and maybe even the blocks, depends on over the mesh network itself. And anyone who is in the vicinity of this mesh can then send and broadcast Bitcoin transactions over the Nodl node itself. Again, completely without internet connection. And that is just a very, very powerful tool. And especially when you combine that, as you've already mentioned here, with the Blockstream satellite, which is just such a beautiful, beautiful invention here that we have now, I think, for only 1 year. So it's something rather recently. But right now, the satellite itself is actually, where can I see the map? Right here. It covers the entire planet, right? So anywhere in the world, wherever you are, you will receive every single Bitcoin block beamed throughout space and time. And you can now no longer escape the power of the Bitcoin blockchain. So, Matt, what are your thoughts on the satellite? How amazing is that?
The satellite is really fucking cool. So their network, I think they have 5 satellites, but they don't own the satellites. They're renting space on the satellites. It's an important distinction. They actually pitch it as a feature, because if a nation state wanted to try and block one of those satellites, they're sharing the waves with a bunch of other institutions, and some of them I think are publishing related and US based, so there'd be some constitutional issues or something like that. So they pitch it as a plus. But anyway, the big thing here is that you can send any bit of data you want over the 2 big things are, you can get Bitcoin block data even if you don't have good internet connection, because it's you just need a satellite pointed up in the air and it's just sending blocks out. And it's more private because they're just sending you everything, so they don't know what you're requesting or what you're looking at. And then the other thing is they have this API, which is really cool, which means without KYC, you can basically sublease a part of their satellite bandwidth and send whatever data you want to send, and anyone who's listening to the satellite gets it. So I mean, you could send it something encrypted, and then who's ever receiving on the other side decrypts it, so then no one else would see it. Otherwise, everyone who connects to the satellite sees it. And we had that journal was really cool that we saw.
Yes, exactly right. This they are not owning these satellites because satellites are expensive, but they can rent it. And I mean, as long as they do not get thrown out, you can still accept this connection and just get another redundancy, another layer of redundancy. And now, even when the internet fails, Bitcoin still works, which is great. And the cool thing is, for you as a end user, it's free, right? You only need to have a satellite dish, and all this gear costs roughly $100. So it's not expensive at all. And you can receive now every single, or well, the last 24 hours worth of blocks, so the last, I think, 144 blocks they're always transmitting. But still, that's fantastic. And this also means that you can save on bandwidth, right? My Nodl here is connected to my main router over Wi-Fi, and this means that I'm using roughly 1 to 2 gigabytes every single day, just in uplink and downlink, which is, of course, quite a bottleneck. Yes, here in Germany and Europe or America, this might not be too much of a problem, but bandwidth is actually still the biggest bottleneck that we have. And with something like a satellite, regardless where you are, you can receive these blocks, which is fantastic. And then, as Matt also said here, you can do transmissions. So any piece of information that you want to transact, you can now send to Blockstream over the internet. They will beam it up to the satellite, and then they will beam it down to the entire world. And you can see here when this information was created, a little hash for the transaction ID, how many satoshis per byte you are paying. So you're paying here, by the way, with testnet Bitcoin, so it's fake money here, but you're paying for every single byte of information that you're sending. And then, of course, here's the size of the message, and then whether it was sent or not. And it's really fantastic, right? As soon as I realized that here back in January, I sent this little message: your keys, your Bitcoin. Run your full Nodl.it. Hodlers of last resort, don't trust, verify. Buy on Bisq, mix on Wasabi, store on ColdCard, and use on Silk Road. Encrypt your backups, use PGP and Tor, read Rothbard and Spooner, and Cypherpunk's write code. Right? We can now beam the ethos of Bitcoin throughout the entire globe, and nobody can stop us. And well, we're paying over Lightning Network with ridiculously low fees. It's insane. I mean, it's so magical that we now have this technology. We are truly living here in cypherpunk utopia, right?
Well, it's not utopia yet, but we're getting there.
Soon, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, trademark.
Yes, and then I'm also here scrolling through my timeline because a couple days after I sent, as you mentioned earlier, a message that was encrypted to the private, or well, yeah, to the public key of Grubbles, one of the Blockstream employees, who actually is working on this on the satellite for quite a while now. And where is it? Should come up right up here. And the cool thing is that then I sent the ciphertext, right? Just information that nobody really can understand to the entire planet. Right here we have it. So the ciphertext is going to be received by every single individual on this planet. But the cool thing is that nobody can read it because it is ciphertext. But Grubbles, who has the private key of the corresponding public key, which I encrypted it with, he can actually read this piece of information. So we've managed a way of telling everybody on the single world something, but that only one individual can understand. And that is so powerful because nobody knows who this individual is that can actually read it, right? I connected to the Blockstream website here over Tor, so they do not know that I have sent this message and I've paid over Lightning, so they don't even know from which Lightning node I've sent this payment. And then I've encrypted it with Grubbles' public key. And so nobody knows that Grubbles is interested in this transaction. Nobody knows that it was encrypted with his public key. And then nobody knows that he's receiving this information and that he's decrypting it. So we are communicating from one anonymous person to another one over a satellite and PGP encryption, paid with a Lightning Network testnet transaction. It's insane, right? It's mind-blowing to have this, but it's here. And as you said, it might be still a bit far off from reaching full cypherpunk utopia, but to have this technology at our disposal, at our fingertips, with such a easy and convenient way, is mind-blowing. It really opens your eyes to what is possible.
Yeah, and it's amazing what like such a simple tool, like you know exactly what it does, but that it enables just so many different possibilities. Just like keeps it simple, but like the user can be so creative with it that it's just, yeah, it's just pretty crazy to think about. Those are my favorite types of tools, the really simple ones that when you're creative with them, you can do some crazy things.
Yes, agreed. So, what do you think are some future crazy technology that is going to come up? Some tools that really help us both on the privacy and the censorship resistant side of Bitcoin. What is still missing?
You know, I think big picture, like people should be able to send someone Bitcoin and not worry about, you know, send some person or some entity Bitcoin and not worry about where their transactions came from, what their transaction history is. So, you know, I want stronger privacy guarantees. I want Lightning to keep developing as amazingly as it's developing and growing and becoming more liquid and becoming more stable. I as gaming, we talked about gaming. I'm like super bullish on gaming. There's a hit lying there, just waiting to be done. There's going to be some big things, I think, with gaming, and you know, Bitcoin probably could not change anymore, at least after Schnorr, and everything would be fine. Like it would probably be great even. Um, the the world around Bitcoin will probably do more to foster Bitcoin further adoption and usage more than any specific individual Bitcoin development. Because of twofold, you have governments around the world increasingly showing that they're not capable of running these economies and that they're greedy, and you have individuals around the world who are building products and services around Bitcoin for their own personal profit. Like one of the things I always thought was so cool was the Bitcoin ATM networks. Like it's not like an individual bank is rolling out ATMs around the world. It's all these different sole proprietors that are, you know, buying 3 ATMs for their bodegas and just trying to make a little bit of margin on the top. And they all have to compete with each other, and the prices have to go down as competition happens. So you have like this cool game theory set up where people are incentivized to grow the Bitcoin network and give Bitcoin more value because of their own personal bags, which I think is just really fucking cool.
Yes, I agree. Schnorr's signatures are, I think, the one really cool thing that is still missing. But if it comes, I don't think that it will come alone. With Schnorr signatures, we can also within the same soft fork, integrate Merkleized abstract syntax trees, which can be tweaked to something called Taproot, which basically is a really cool way of making complex scripts, Bitcoin scripts, that have many different optionalities that can be spent under different circumstances, but everything can be compressed down to only one single signature in such a way that you will only have to reveal the spending condition that you're actually using. So you can have 1,000 different spending conditions. They are all hiding in one single signature. And then once you spend it, only then does it become clear exactly how you are spending it right now. The one spending transaction that you end up using. But the 999 other potential spending conditions, they are anonymous. Nobody knows about them, which is really cool. And then further, with Taproot, you can even upgrade these scripts and change pretty much anything in the script without doing a new on-chain transaction. So this is huge. I mean, we can have that's pretty much endless amounts of complexity in these smart contracts, not just at the point of making the funding transaction and putting money into the script, but still then once we have on-chain confirmations, we can continuously change how we can spend it without wasting additional block space. That's huge, right? And then probably within the same update, we can still get something like Zcash no input in, right? A little tweak on how, on what package or what bits are going to be signed by every single transaction. And this is really useful for the Lightning Network because this will allow us to do the new version of the update mechanism called the L2 protocol, which is a much easier way of doing a channel balance update. So new commitment transactions to your payment channel. And this then also means that we no longer have to be online all the time in order to defend against a possible breach remedy transaction, right? We no longer have to be vigilant all the time and run a full node, but it actually is enough it's kind of a cryptographic proof that you simply cannot spend a old channel state. And this enables very complex things like, for example, watchtowers, which are now much easier with something like L2. So when we can get Schnorr signatures and Merkleized abstract syntax trees, well, then eventually in Taproot, plus Zcash no input into Bitcoin, then we have much more or much better privacy because of key aggregation. We have much more complex smart contracts with something like Taproot. The key aggregation and threshold signatures of Schnorr are also phenomenal for doing large multi-sig transactions, which are also powerful. And then a much more scalable and much more efficient Lightning Network with Zcash no input. That's pretty much a win-win-win-win. And we can make that everything happen with a soft fork. So hopefully it's not going to be as contentious as a hard fork would, and hopefully it's not going to take as long as we fought for SegWit to get activated. But I mean, the BIP is out. There already is an implementation for Schnorr. So hopefully, rather sooner than later, we will have these updates. And I agree, Matt, once we have them, it might well be pretty much perfect. Do you think then that we will see the ossification of the base layer protocol, that it will be become much more rigid, and that there will simply no longer be any major updates, as we do not see any major updates to TCP IP nowadays?
I think perfect is the wrong word, but good enough is like what we're striving for, I think, for ossification. Yeah, I mean, you want at least the consensus layer, which hasn't really been separated out. You want the consensus layer to be ossified as soon as possible, because like I said, part of the value prop here is that the system is resistant to change. So if we can get to the point where we don't have to change it that much ever, and when you change things, you add attack vectors, as you saw with like the most recent Ethereum hard fork. They like found a vulnerability like 2 days before. Like if they had went through with it, they could have had some major fund loss. So every time, especially with hard forks, but every single time you upgrade things, you know, you might be adding new attack vectors that you don't know about. So it's an attack vector in itself. So you want to try and ossify as soon as possible. I'm particularly unique in the view that I think there will probably be hard forks in Bitcoin's future. I mean, there's definitely one that I pretty much has to be done. That my co-host on Tales from the Crypt brought up when he was in Riga for the Honeybadger conference, which is like a time bug, and I think has to do with like the Unix time format, and that's like in like 60 years or 70 years or something like that. But you know, I think that if things hit a critical mass and the market demands a certain upgrade to Bitcoin, as we saw with SegWit, It's not going to matter too much. It's going to matter, but even if something's a hard fork, if the improvement is actually valuable and tested and has enough weight behind it by users and stakeholders in general, then I would see, like, we've only seen hard forks from like incompetent teams that are like either fraudulent or borderline fraudulent, that brought absolutely nothing good to the table. They're poor projects. So presumably the dominant chain in 20 years could, be a hard fork chain from the current chain. And I don't see a problem with that. Like the market will decide pretty quickly, which chain has value. And if you're holding Bitcoin, you get both anyway. But then any hard fork that fails is just going to trend to zero in Bitcoin terms over time, which is what we're seeing with like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold and stuff. Like, they're worthless because at any time, if like for some reason there's like this amazing research that said that big blocks made sense for scaling, then we could just fork in big blocks at the current UTXO set, and Bitcoin Cash would be worth way less than that new big block fork with good devs and actual, massive stakeholders and whatnot. But
Yes.
in general, we want ossification as quick as possible. But, some things can't be self-forked. So if there's some major thing, the market will demand it eventually, and I think that makes me more bullish on Bitcoin, because it means that, the UTXO set is what's the most important. It's the most fair ledger we've ever had in the world. That ledger is what holds the value. So if you have a piece of that ledger, no matter where we go from here, you have a piece of that future.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that Francis Pugliar actually said a couple months ago on Twitter, that you should run a Bitcoin full node right now, because the initial block download is something that does take quite a lot of time, and it does consume quite a lot of bandwidth. And it might be that when shit hits the fan, that you simply do not have the time or resources to sync the Bitcoin blockchain from scratch. It's much easier to stay up to date than it is to time travel and go back to the Genesis block and verify every single transaction and change the consensus rules as they have changed in history, right? But then here, something that just came out today, the Bitcoin Optech newsletter, number 32, I just uploaded the reading of it. We have here a great presentation on the Stanford Blockchain Conference by Benedict Bunz about accumulators for blockchains. And what he is basically doing research on is the UTXO set. So the set of unspent transaction outputs. And basically, that's really nice definition here. These store the ownership information for every currently spendable groupings of Bitcoin. And the cool thing about his research here is that we no longer have to store the currently roughly 2 gigabytes worth of UTXO data for every full node itself, but rather the spender of the Bitcoin can do a UTXO proof with an RSA accumulator that the coin that he is spending is actually part of the valid UTXO set. So the burden of computation and the burden of proof is no longer with every single full node, but rather only with that individual holding this UTXO. So it would be now some additional piece of information that you would have to hold, not just your private key that proves that you have ownership over this, but actually also the UTXO proof, which proves that this token or this coin is actually part of the spendable UTXO set. So right here, right, accumulators for blockchain, that's just one of the improvements to the protocol that we can still work upon. And again, when we have something like this, it will help every single node. Okay, so not just full nodes on their initial block download, but also SPV nodes, even those that run the neutrino Golem Rice filter protocol. So Bitcoin is, although we are talking here about ossification and everything, and Bitcoin not changing anymore, there is so many more tiny improvements that we can still do. But in aggregate, all these improvements are really, really important. Right. So, do you think that we will still see many large and massive improvements? Maybe something like SegWit, or something like the communication efficiencies that Peter Woolley just improved quite a lot upon recently? Or do you think that we have reached a point where Bitcoin is as efficient as it can be?
Oh no, I don't think, I think there's plenty of room for improvement, and I constantly get blown away every time every time you see the improvement happening. But I mean, SegWit is a major step up for us. It was a really big threshold to pass, because specifically because it enabled Lightning. But yeah, who knows? I think we'll see lots of. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin, as everyone knows, and I think it's not done with its surprises yet. There's some of the smartest people I've ever met are in this space, and I have faith that they have a lot of things coming for us that we can't even conceptualize. I don't even want to make predictions on that.
Yes, exactly right. There are so many smart people, and especially here in Bitcoin, it's insane. It's so nice to know that you are by far the dumbest person here in Bitcoin. That's something that you really realize when you read something like, for example, here the Bitcoin Optech newsletter, and you go through the writings of David Harding or Gregory Maxwell or Peter Woolley. You really understand that we are glad to have these individuals here fighting on our side, because I would not want to be on the other side trying to make something that is better than what they are working on, because they are dedicated on improving just every little efficiency that they can find. And it's right, it's breathtaking. And the open source community here is very, very amazing, and I'm really looking forward to all the future improvements that can still come. So Matt, we talked about quite a lot. We talked about all the different cool Lightning stuff, and the Nodl and Blockstream satellites and GoTenna mesh networks and all that. Is there any other cool stuff in your mind that you want to bring up?
I mean, I remember that we didn't talk about Samurai. Samurai's doing a lot of cool work. They have the dojo coming out, which I'm pretty excited about. And we have a lot of things cooking for everyone at Tales from the Crypt. Marty has an amazing interview series that's just fantastic. We will keep getting drunk with you once a week, bringing you all the important news and our shade. And yeah, this is the most bullish bear market that we'll probably ever be in. And I'm just really excited of all these things that are getting built around us. And just seems like the pace, you keep your eye off it for a little bit and you start missing out, because the pace is just astounding.
Yes, Samurai is another of these great wallets, right? And we had Jeremy Savior in the chat. Got to scroll up because you're writing so much in the chat. He asked, "Have you guys seen the new Samurai wallet full node?" And yes, that is one of the really cool features that Samurai is packing. Not only is it, in my opinion, the most beautiful user interface, especially because they no longer have any fiat currencies involved. It's just Bitcoin, which is really cool. They also have some form of coin selection, although it's kind of hacky. They have paynims, which are reusable and private payment codes. So, for example, they are already here implemented on in Tallycoin. So this right here, Fancy Snow 967 is my paynim. If you want to open a paynim channel to me, that would be nice. So that is here. We have Whirlpool, which is the Samurai implementation of the Chaumian coin joins, which is also implemented here in the Wasabi wallet. So it's a Sterolink framework. And they are working on some amazing stuff with pay to endpoint, which I think they call Cahoots, which is a way that you can make every single spend a coin join when you collaborate with the receiving partner. So the receiving merchant, for example, could throw in a UTXO of his own, and then it would obfuscate the link or the chain analysis assumption that every input belongs to the same individual, right? And this is all these little parts here that we are still building out is helping Bitcoin in a fundamental way. And we are going to thwart blockchain based surveillance and censorship. Absolutely. And Jeremy, to what you brought up here, the dojo is a plug and play full node that automatically syncs with your Samurai wallet, coming soon in 2 weeks. And Samurai here has partnered up with Bitseed to bring you a Nook. This is a little mini computer, so it is a real PC, no Raspberry Pi or ROC 64 like the Nodl is, but actually a really powerful computer. It's going to drain a lot more energy than, for example, the Nodl, and definitely much, much more than a Raspberry Pi, but it is very, very powerful, therefore. And the cool thing is that already Samurai Wallet can connect to your node, but only for some communication. And with the Dojo, you're going to have full communication with all the features that you need for your mobile wallet. And the really, really cool thing is, and I thank Samurai very much for this, is that they are going to open source the code for the dojo. And that is fantastic because this means that the Nodl itself can upload or can install the dojo software, and then you can connect the best mobile wallet, which we have currently, the Samurai wallet, to your own full node. Right. So thanks, Samurai, for doing a bunch of good stuff, and thanks for open sourcing it. That is really useful. And I really do see that more and more we're going to have more individuals running their own Bitcoin full node and Lightning node, and then connecting to it via APIs or macaroons to your phone. And that is going to increase the usability of Bitcoin quite tremendously. So yes, Samurai is truly awesome, isn't it?
Sorry, I couldn't get the mute button off. Yes, it is. And also to answer Jeremy's question, we don't know about Lightning yet. It looks like it's later down in Samurai's roadmap. They're focusing first on just on chain. And the other interesting thing about the dojo is that you can run it on your own hardware with a single command line install, they said, which I think is really important. Really cool. That's where I would like to see all of these things go, where you can bring your own hardware if you want, and you can just install, all the software.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, Samurai is not yet working on Lightning Network because they said on an interview that we did at the Hackers Congress in Riga back in October 2018 that they are first and foremost a privacy focused wallet. And so they only dedicate their developer time to stuff that they know is going to increase privacy. And they said that they still have so much work to do for the on chain stuff. For example, here, as we saw it there, the Whirlpool integration or the Cahoots integration for pay to endpoint. So there's still a lot more improvements on the privacy side for the on-chain layer. And they said they are not yet certain about the privacy implementation or implications of the Lightning Network. Yes, it is onion routed. Yes, you connect it over Tor. Yes, nobody knows who is sending or who is receiving these funds and how much is being transmitted. Well, no, actually, you do know when you are part of the route how much is being transmitted, but you don't know how much the current state of the payment channel is. But still, real privacy is much more than just quote unquote encryption of the amounts that are being transacted, right? There's a lot of metadata also being transacted on a Lightning network. And we simply don't know yet what the long-term privacy implications are for the Lightning network. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where all this is going to end up at. But definitely, it's a fantastic time to be alive, as Yuva says here in the chat. And yeah, absolutely, Samurai is one of the best Lightning net or on-chain wallets that we have right now.
Big fan of Samurai. Very user friendly.
Yes, agreed. Okay, Matt. Anything else? Anything else that you still want to bring up?
No, I think we had a great conversation. I really appreciate you having me on here, Max.
Perfect. Well, Matt, maybe let's summarize then up. First of all, again, thanks very much for joining here. It was a great conversation. I agree there with you. Please, peers, follow Matt Odell on Twitter, Matt_Odell. And absolutely, you have to listen to every Tales from the Crypt episode, started by Marty Bent, and he does all the interviews. And Matt joins him for the amazing Rabbit Hole Recap every end of the week, Thursday, Friday. And it really is a great Bitcoin no bullshit summary of all the crazy things happening here. And how many episodes do you have by now? There are many.
I don't know, a lot. I joined him in like, I think late August, early September, something like that. We've been doing it weekly. We haven't missed a week.
Awesome. That is fantastic. Well, we need high quality content, and Tales from the Crypt is definitely one of them. And yeah, so follow Tales from the Crypt, TFTC21 on Twitter as well. Buy Bitcoin, how the Bitcoin sign guy has been on also a couple times. Again, follow Matt, follow Marty Bent right here. Oh yeah, and one of the latest shows was here with Must Stop Murad, who has also been on the WCN a couple times. And I agree with Brian Lockhart here. Murad and Matt do a great job of representing two forms of Bitcoin bullishness. Murad is the somber, pragmatic realist, the voice in my head at 8 a.m. Matt is the amped up libertarian bank buster, the voice at my head at 8 p.m. after a few beers or whiskeys. Well, absolutely. I think you two are a great compliment to each other. And who do you think is going to win the bet? Murad kind of kicked your ass with the last bet, and he was definitely right to be short-term bullish. But I think current bet is in 6 months. Is the price going to be higher or lower? I think you're higher, right? You're the perma bull. So yeah, do you think you're going to win this one?
He went bearish both bets. The way I structure the bets with him is they're hodler bets, I like to call them. So it's pretty simple. It's you pick a date in the future, and you say if it's going to be over and under what the price currently is. And the reason is I think that captures basically the idea of a hodler, which is like, I'm not trying to time tops or bottoms. I just think that long term, as adoption goes up, Bitcoin price will go up, and I'm willing to, waive the depths and keep accumulating and think long term. So we made a 6-month bet over under 34.21. I went over with Marty, and Murad went under. Last time Marty ditched me and went under with Murad. And I lost that bet by, I think the price was like 6,400 in the fall when we made the bet, and it was for January 1, and the price was like 3,800 or something. So like I completely lost that bet, but it was for dinner anyway. We had a great dinner. We went, we got steak. And then this next one's for dinner too. So it's like just a good excuse to get two of my friends out to dinner to talk some Bitcoin.
Yes, agreed. And I think dinners is always a nice bet. Right? You're going to have a good time anyhow. And one peer is going to pay probably the entire bill anyhow. So you might as well do a little fun with it. And maybe go a little nice fancy place after the bet. So why not? Well, again, we talked about the Lightning Network Trust Chain and how amazing it is that this actually works, and that you had, well, the balls, and you're rightfully so, to ask Jack, the founder of Twitter and the Cash App, and the Bitcoin maximalist here with all these services, if he wants to take over the Lightning Trust Chain. So maybe, hopefully, he is going to follow here the lead, and then he can prove that he has a Lightning full node. Hopefully, he does already.
Dude, I was looking at Twitter while we were. I like just took a peek at Twitter like 10 minutes ago, and while we were on this chat, like people are just, they have no faith in me. They're like, why aren't you sending this? You got to send the money. You're holding the money. Like, just have a little faith, you know. Matt's not gonna let you down. I got this.
Exit scam.
Yeah, after all this, I'm gonna steal the $100. But anyway, you shouldn't trust me. I might steal it. So that's the important thing.
I mean, he has it in his pinned post, right? So come on, don't trust that peer.
Why would they send it to me?
We also talked about the amazing things that we can do with Lightning Network games, like, for example, the Donner Labs game, or where is it, the Satoshi games, or all the other cool stuff. Here again, the visualization of the Lightning Network Trust Chain. We talked about custodial wallets like OpenNode, which I'm using here for the Tallycoin fundraising, or the Blue Wallet, which is a really intuitive custodial wallet interface. And of course, the Tip in Me, which is a nice little way of accepting Bitcoin or Lightning Network tips with your Twitter handle. And of course, the awesome Jewel browser extension, which I showed you here with the Lightning Network Spin, which is this little gambling site that's a super easy and convenient way of showing just how easy you can send and receive Lightning Network payments with just one single click. It's phenomenal. Something that we actually have not yet talked about, but that I want to mention again, is here the chain code residency. It's going to be here between May and August 2019. And the really cool thing is that there are some fantastic mentors that are going to be a part of this event and teach as much of their Bitcoin wisdom to you. So if you want to apply, I for sure did. The applications are now open. And trust me, this is a phenomenal event. Very worth every penny. It's going to be in New York. Matt, are you going to attend? Still muted.
Which one is this for? The chain code?
Yes, chain code residency.
No, I'm not. It's a little bit out of my level, unfortunately, but I'm working on it. But they do great work. I'm really impressed with everything chain code does. I've met a lot of those guys. They're great guys.
Yes, they are. And the Bitcoin Uptech group newsletter is phenomenal. It's also co-organized here by the Chain Code Labs. They're some of the contributors to it. So definitely a superb open source organization, definitely worth our support. We talked about the Nodl, the personal Bitcoin assistant, the financial battle station, and how potentially you can not just run a Bitcoin Core, Lightning Network, BTC Pay server with it, but also stuff like Electrum personal servers, or a Gotenna mesh network device, or a Blockstream satellite, a receiver, right? So you can do a bunch of stuff with your financial battle station, and it's going to be a joy to behold what is possible here, right? You can send the ethos of Bitcoin through space with this amazing API, or you can encrypt your message so that only one individual can read it, although you're telling the entire world that you're sending this. Isn't that amazing? We talked a little bit about soft forks and hard forks and what might come here in the future. And I highly recommend this article by Peter Todd, Forced Soft Forks. Soft forks do not mean automatically that they are safer than hard forks. Well, they can be quite evil, actually. So this is really a good read and definitely worth it. We talked about the Samurai wallet and their beautiful user interface and what they are using here for privacy with Paynims, with the Whirlpool, and with the pay-to-endpoint transactions, and of course the Wasabi wallet to reclaim your privacy. And it's over 9,876 Bitcoin have been made fungible since August 1st, 2018. Isn't that fantastic? Piers, that has been pretty much it here. Thanks for joining the conversation with Matt Odell. It was a pleasure. If you like the show, if you want to support it, please leave a like, leave a subscribe, and of course, very thankful for all the donations that you can throw at me here on teleco.in/HillebrandMax. And it looks like we have a new donation. No, I think that was the one that I did right here, and from Anonymous. No, that was the one that. Oh yeah, now another donation here, on-chain funds. Oh, that's cool. That is, what is that? Should be, it is 150,000 satoshis. So thank you very much for this on-chain donation. That is awesome. You're the best. And every little bit helps. Every little satoshi helps. So again, Piers, it was a pleasure talking to you all. And Matt, again, thank you very much for joining me. And any last words?
Take care, guys. Really happy to be here. And we got this.
Awesome. We do. Piers, bye-bye.